workbench 1 month ago. And right now, I just want to update you on how it's doing and how useful this is in my shop. I primarily like this bench for sawing and planing, but there are other things that it can do. These are just the two things that I like doing on it. For face planing, before I needed to pound temporary nails into my tall workbench, but here I have a planing stop which I can just put the board in the planing stop and then start to plane away. For edge planing, you can flip the work at its side, but for long pieces, it's very impractical and you can't really sit on it. For long boards, I've made this pegboard thing that has a wedge in it and you can just pound it into the notch vise of your low Roman workbench. After that, you can just get any peg and just fit it inside any holes depending on what size your board is. And now you can just get the board and just slide it in and it will be held tight. This bench hook is called a crochet. Maybe I can make a build video in the future because this one isn't really that good. In my old bench, I can usually plane short boards, but for long boards, it's really impossible. So I'm really glad that I can now plane these long boards on this low Roman workbench. For sawing, this is really easy. Just cut out holes and add some pegs in there. And now, you can saw really easily. Here, I am just removing that turning saw part because I've cut that part with the turning saw for this shooting board that I'm going to make. And I hope you look forward to that video. Sometimes it slips out, but it's definitely easier than just like having to get clamps all the time and then needed to clamp it all the time or need to put it on the vise or just holding it because I am definitely not strong enough to hold the board just with my hands. If you want, you can also hold it with your hands, knees, or feet if you don't want to put these pegs in. You saw me plane a similar board on the planing stop, but actually I just like to move the peg there and then pound them lower. And now, you've got a good planing stop too, except it doesn't bite into your work. And this is good for wide boards but not really narrow boards. And now you can just start planing. For chiseling, it's really just as simple as clamping something down to the bench. Like, this is one of the most simplest ways I can think about doing this without any fancy vise. For any type of hatchet work, I just maybe just put a piece of plywood or any piece of board on top of the workbench and use it as a makeshift chopping block. Of course, it's not as effective as a chopping block, but it sure gets the job done. If you want to hold something up vertically, maybe you're gonna plane the ends or you're gonna cut joinery or you wanna rip the board, you can just use this notch vise which there's a wedge and you can just pick random scraps of wood and use them as spacers and just pound the wedge in. And now it's held in there really tight. So like I said earlier, this is just personally, but for sawing, I think this bench is better for sawing because if you watched some of my older videos, I always needed to put it in that cast iron vise that would mar up the surface unless you make some sort of wooden jaws. And planing was even worse because I only had that cast iron plane before and I tried to like brace it against the wall, but of course that ain't convenient. So I always need to resort to just bang in nails into the bench and just remove them after planing. And before, there was literally no way I could plane these plywood boards because I also do some plywood cabinetry unless I just hold them with my feet, and that is really hard. Overall, this is a really good bench for beginners and even some pros because you can do a lot of things really quickly and this bench is really cheap. If there's anything that I haven't tried out here that some of you guys do, then you can leave it in a comment. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye!